Hello and welcome to our next lesson in this topic on adaptation and competition. So in the previous two lessons we've looked at variation and the differences between genetic and environmental variation. Last lesson we looked at continuous and discontinuous variation, and today we're going to look at inheritance. So as you would for any other lesson, you need to write the title inheritance in your exercise book. By the end of the lesson you should be able to tell me what DNA, gene and chromosomes mean. You should be able to explain how characteristics are inherited, and after the independent study task I set you next lesson, you should be able to say how the model of DNA was put together by working together between different scientists. So you can often tell if some members are of the same family because they look alike. Now, if you're of the same family, it often means that you've inherited certain genes from your parents that give you characteristics that are similar to your brother and sisters, or similar to your auntie and uncles. Okay? So we can just say that people in the same family often share characteristics as they have some of the same genes. Some of the same genes. So if you have a brother or sister, you will have some similarities but some differences, and that is because you have some of the same genes that you have both inherited from your parents. Now, you inherit genetic material from your parents, which is then stored in the nucleus of your cells. So we can say that genetic material is given to offspring from parents and stored in the nucleus of cells. In the nucleus of cells. So every single cell in your body has genetical material in it which was given to you from your parents, which gives you some characteristics that are similar to theirs. Okay? So we're going to add an image that I've pre-prepared so that we can picture some definitions. Okay? Now, the first definition I want us to think about is the definition of DNA. And we have heard that term quite a lot. It's often seen in the media and it's often depicted in things like films. So our first key word or key term is DNA. Now, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. We're not going to write it down because you don't really need to. However, we do need to define it. So DNA can be defined as a chemical or the chemical that contains all of the information to make an organism. So all of your DNA is a blueprint or a plan to make you. All of the DNA in your brother or your sister is a plan or a blueprint to make them. All of the DNA in a tree is the plan or the blueprint to make that tree. So we can add underneath DNA, we can say that it is a set of plans, and we're going to put plans in speech marks, a set of plans to make an organism. So it's kind of like the blueprint or the plans that are needed to make you. Okay? Now, as part of a piece of DNA is known as a gene. Okay? Genes code for certain characteristics. So our next keyword is the word gene. Gene. Now, a gene can be defined as a short piece of DNA, a short piece of DNA that codes for a specific characteristic. Okay, so a gene is a short piece of DNA that codes for a specific characteristic. Now, we can say, for example, that a gene can be for eye colour, a gene can be for skin colour, a gene can be for hair colour, for height, for body mass. These are all genes that give you a particular characteristic. So we can say, e.g., gene for eye colour. And you receive these genes from your parents. So DNA is said to be a double helix. It looks like this, it's like a spiral staircase, and a small piece of this DNA is often referred to as a gene. Now, genes can be found on chromosomes. So we can add underneath here, we can say genes are found on chromosomes. Okay, so our final keyword is the word chromosome. Chromosome, or one of our final keywords, chromosome. Now, a chromosome is a tightly coiled piece of DNA. So, a tightly coiled piece of DNA. A fact that I find really interesting is that every cell in your body has 7 foot of DNA in it. That means if I was to get all of the cells in my body and I was to take out all of the DNA and just place it end on end so it's a one continuous string, there would be enough DNA in my body to go from here to the moon and back 3 times. So there's a lot of DNA in every cell, and if you think about it, we can't even see a cell with our eyes. So you're fitting something that's 7 foot tall into something you cannot see with your eyes. In order to do that, your DNA is wound up very, very tightly, and that is what we call a chromosome. A chromosome is a tightly coiled up piece of DNA. So we can say that each cell has 7 foot of DNA that is coiled tightly into chromosomes so that it fits into a nucleus. So to fit in the nucleus of a cell, the DNA has to be tightly coiled. So if we have a look on this diagram that I have put up, this is our piece of DNA and it shows a double helix like a spiral staircase. So that's our DNA and that is a double helix shape. That's the spiral staircase type thing. This is our chromosome. This is the DNA that's been tightly coiled, and these are the genes found on the chromosome. These are the parts of DNA that code for a characteristic. If we were to go from the smallest to the biggest, the smallest would be DNA, the second smallest would be a gene, and the third smallest or the biggest would be a chromosome. Okay? Now, we need to think about how your DNA is inherited. How do you get this DNA into your cells? And we can start by refreshing our screen, and we can start with a key word. Okay? Now, the key word we're going to use is inheritance. The title of this lesson is inheritance, and we're going to define that before we look at how inheritance takes place. So, if you just give me 1 second to have a drink, because my throat has gone very dry. So, inheritance, apologies, can be defined. Inheritance can be defined as when an organism receives chromosomes from its parents. Okay? Now, you have 46 chromosomes in every cell in your body. You had 23 of those chromosomes from your mum and 23 of those chromosomes from your dad. So we can add underneath here that humans have 46 chromosomes in each cell of their body, dash 23 from mum, 23 chromosomes from mum, and 23 chromosomes from dad. 23 chromosomes from dad. So you've got 46 chromosomes in total in each cell of your body, 23 of those chromosomes come from your mum, and 23 of those chromosomes come from your dad. Now, this happened during a process of what's known as sexual reproduction, and fertilization took place. So this is a diagram that is on the PowerPoint, but we're going to use it here. So fertilization, which is an important word. Fertilization is when a sperm joins with an egg cell. So when a sperm cell joins with an egg cell, and this is when we get these chromosomes making you. So the sperm cell contained 23 chromosomes, the egg cell contained 23 chromosomes, sperm comes from your dad, egg comes from your mum, so we can put that the egg is from the mum and the sperm is from the dad. Okay. These join together in a process known as fertilization. The genetic material joins together, and this cell that is produced is the first cell that makes you. So we can say that the cell produced is the first one, is the first cell of the offspring. Okay. So, fertilization is when a sperm and an egg cell join together. This brings about inheritance. It gives you the chromosomes that your dad provides and the chromosomes that your mom provides to make you. So, we need to now have a go at some of these questions. I would like you, please, to have a go at the questions on the PowerPoint on the board now. For question 1, I would like you to write out the sentences, filling in the gaps, please. For question 2 and 4, I would like you to write out the question and answer it in your book. You'll notice there is no question 3. I have left that out on purpose because it's to do with an independent study task that I want you to do for the next lesson, but you'll see about that in next lesson. So for now, I want you please to have a go at question 1, 2 and 4. I want you to pause the video and do that. Make sure you've got a different coloured pen. Once you've done everything, restart the video, mark and correct your work with the different coloured pen. Pause the video now, press play when you're ready. Okay, so you should have had a go at these 3 questions on the board. Make sure you've got a different coloured pen in your hand. If you've got a green pen, that would be great. If you haven't, it's not the end of the world. Let's reset our board back to black. Let's add the first question in. Add image. We want to add the first set of questions. Make this a bit bigger so I can write in it. So these questions should have read. So just get a red pen. Should have read. Genetic material of the body is stored in the nucleus of a cell. DNA is the name of the chemical that contains instructions needed to make an organism. Chromosomes are made of long strands of DNA. The sections of DNA that hold the information for a characteristic are called genes. So it should have read, genetic material in the body is stored in the nucleus of a cell. DNA is the name of the chemical that contains the instructions needed to make an organism. Chromosomes are made of long strands of DNA. The sections of DNA that hold the information for a characteristic are called genes. Let's have a go at the second one. And we'll put it over here so we've got room to write. If we go a bit more, that'll do. So it says arrange these objects in order of size, starting with the smallest. So for question 2, the smallest is a gene. The next smallest is a chromosome. The next smallest is DNA. And next smallest is, oh no, sorry, I've done those the wrong way around. So it should go gene, DNA, chromosome. Sorry. So gene, DNA, no, gene, chromosome, DNA. Sorry. Chromosome, DNA. After DNA, we should have nucleus, then cell. Nucleus, then cell. So the smallest is a gene and the biggest is a cell. Okay, so it should have gone gene, chromosome, DNA, nucleus, cell. Let's get our final question on the board, get it marked, and then we are done. So the final question was a 6 marker, and it said explain in detail why you share some characteristics with your mother and some with your father. 6 marks. You get a mark for quality of written communication. That's what QWC stands for. So you should have said that genes code for characteristics for 1 mark. Genes code for characteristics. We can then say that genes are found on chromosomes for a 2nd mark. Genes are found on chromosomes. So we've got for 1 mark, genes code for characteristics. 2nd mark, genes are found on chromosomes. We can then say for a 3rd mark that humans have 46 chromosomes in each cell. For our 3rd mark, we can then say that each parent provides 23 of these chromosomes. So each parent provides 23 of these chromosomes. During fertilization, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can then say that the resulting embryo has some characteristics of each parent. Okay, so for 6 marks, you need to say that genes code for characteristics. The genes are found on chromosomes. Humans have 46 chromosomes in each cell. Each parent provides 23 of these chromosomes during fertilization when the sperm and egg join, and the resulting embryo has some characteristics of each parent. So that concludes our lesson today. If we have a look back at our learning objectives, it says, can you define the words DNA, gene and chromosome? You should be able to do that now. And can you explain how characteristics are inherited? You should be able to do that now. As an independent study task next lesson, I'm going to go over this final learning objective. You're going to do all of the work. You're going to need to use the internet books, whatever you've got to hand to make sure you can complete that task. That will be linked to this lesson, as you need to know how scientists work together to develop the model of DNA. I will see you next time. If you have any questions at all, please comment below in the Google Classrooms or send me an email directly and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Take care.